Hey guys, and welcome back for another technical analysis breakdown. Thank you so much for your support, and if you haven't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button, and if you are enjoying the content, give us a thumbs up. Let's dive right in.
Crush a bit, little bit, roll it up, take a hit, feeling lit, feeling right, 2 a.m. summer night.
Hope everyone's having a great Tuesday night. I wanted to check back in and break down the Canadian marijuana stocks. Today we'll be looking at weed, ACB, CRON, and APHA. And really, before we get into the technical analysis portion of it, definitely wanted to talk a little bit about just some of the headlines and some of the things that we've seen in the last couple of weeks in regards to some major news. And really, we've had a lot of stuff coming out from both sides over the last couple of weeks, with definitely a lot of great trading opportunity. As you know, volatility has definitely picked up lately, and we know with the increased volatility, there's always going to be more trading opportunities for bulls or bears. So that's always good to see. As far as just major news is concerned, we had that, with the farm bill that's currently expected to go to vote, I believe, on Wednesday. Which after it's going to go to the Senate, and there is a legal hemp portion in there that's been proposed in that latest farm bill, and if this particular bill does pass, it is a huge win for the sector and huge win for companies like Cannabis and Aurora and Cronos if this is passed, because they do have relatable products and services within the hemp side of things. And as far as other companies are concerned, of course, APHA has had all the headlines of lately, and they've been kind of the major player in the news. And they released a rebuttal, or at least an article that stated that they're going to provide a line-by-line rebuttal to all of the short seller allegations from the Grego camp and Quintessential and the Hindenburg stuff, on all the Latin American acquisitions. And I believe that's likely to be released tomorrow, I believe, or sometime this week, but I think they mentioned Wednesday as the likely timeline. And with APHA, I don't think this is going to be released in the morning or anything like that. This will most likely be released after the markets close, as typically, some of these bigger companies, they typically like to do this kind of thing. So I do expect, that APHA is going to have a little bit more bullish momentum for the day tomorrow, and then once the news comes out, then we'll see how kind of the rest of the week plays out. But on top of all of that and all that's going on with APHA, we also had a great report that came out today from Scotiabank, which is one of the big 6 banks here in Canada, that actually had a really favorable view for APHA and their Latin American acquisitions. So give that up a read if you haven't checked that out. And definitely, if that, this rebuttal from APHA is favorable, and, sentiment, starts to change, because sentiment is already kind of changing, and it's kind of leading into that hype of those articles and of that rebuttal, of that statement that's going to be released by APHA. But it's definitely on the cusp of going all bull and getting a lot of momentum back into this company should a lot of that stuff get resolved and go well. So that'll be interesting to see. And then as far as Cronos Group, we had the major cigarette company Altria investing close to, or Altria, however you pronounce it, close to $2 billion in Cronos, gaining about 45% control of the company, and they do have another possible 10% equity that they could purchase as well, giving them majority in the company. And that's, again, great news for the sector as a whole, and definitely expect more big catalysts like this in 2019. And then, Aurora essentially buying out this Mexican-based pharma company, which is essentially going to give them a big advantage in Mexico, that first mover advantage, which is always key for any new business. and it doesn't really surprise me personally, as you know, Aurora is typically aggressive when it comes to their expansion strategies. So they've kind of bought up, you know, whoever they liked and wanted to acquire, they just bought them out, and that's kind of how Aurora has been expanding in the market. So with that said, let's take a look at the charts really quickly and see what's going on and see what we can expect. We'll take a look today at weed, ACB, CRON, and APHA. So looking at weed, we've definitely had a bounce since the little you know, pullback that we had recently to create kind of our new low on the daily chart. I mentioned in a few previous videos that if we did break the dump low of $40 psychologically, or sorry, of 41.80, I believe we had it here. Yeah, $40 psychologically, that we were going to see some further downside, which we did get. We also had this wedge that was forming that I also mentioned in my previous video, that if we had the breakdown here, that we were going to see a big pullback, and we did pull back quite a bit. We went all the way from 46.42 down to about 36.36. So that's about $10 and about, let's just say, give or take, almost 20%, which is quite a move down. But we've managed to hold that now, and we found new support at 36.36, which we can draw on now. And we've started to bounce over the last few days. We set a high on, I believe, the 7th of December at 43.30. We bounced, created a higher low at 40.45 and that $40 psychological level, and then we're still bouncing, you know, with a close near the highs today at 44.69, our high, and our close being at 44.30, which is a good sign for the bulls. Now, something that I talked about a lot in my previous videos is this particular level here, 45.94, or we can call it $46 psychologically. This has been a key level for weed, because we can see it's touched it quite a bit, but it just has not managed to break this $46 level, you know, with all the price rejections that we got in the past. So now really the key for you know, the weed bulls is that we'll need to break this 46 level to start getting in this trading zone here. And until really we see that, we'll still, I believe, still go a bit more sideways and a bit more choppy. And, you know, that's kind of really what I expect for weed, unless we really break this 46 level, because that will at least give us an indication that the daily trend is going to reverse in favor for the bulls, and we can start heading towards the upside. So I do anticipate us touching this level tomorrow, probably first thing in the morning, and maybe a potential gap up as well. And if we do hit this level, you know, if we do get a lot of action, a lot of bull volume, and we break it with some solid force, then that's a good sign for the bulls. And if we can hold it tomorrow, that'll even be a better sign. But if we don't, we'll most likely see a bounce here and a pullback to set a new higher low before we get another leg up to try to retest it. So, you know, and we'll want that higher low, of course, over our previous low of 36.36. So that will be really what we can see for the daily for weed. And even when we look at the longer time frame here, we see that now we've set our new lower low on the weekly, and now we're starting to attempt that bounce, right? So even on the weekly, it's the same thing. We need to break that $46 level, and if we do, it's a good sign for the bulls. We'll get in this trading zone and potentially get into a new range for the new year. So we'll see how that plays out this coming week. So let's take a look at APHA. and see how we're doing here. So let me just take out some of these trend lines, draw some new ones. We'll leave that one there. So as far as APHA is concerned, so obviously we've had the full, onslaught of the bears in the last couple of weeks, with all the short seller allegation stuff and all the things that's been going on with APHA. So feel bad, of course, for all the shareholders and long-term investors of this company. But the good thing is that we are starting to get some favorable news for APHA. So definitely it's a good sign for the bulls, and I definitely expect this particular stock to fully recover should APHA release the right information and kind of get this all resolved, which I do expect them to do, because Vic is he's been known to do well in the past with Jameson, so we've seen how that's played out. So I do expect APHA to continue its ascent back up, and not essentially back to the highs or anything, but to get into a more respectable trading range, and go from there. So as far as the technicals are concerned, we found our low, and one thing that we saw here was this 3 gap down bullish reversal pattern that was playing out, and that obviously played out very well with a bounce off our level here at 480, and then we got an ensuing movement of all green, Marabuzu here, showing that buyers were in full force, and we essentially rode this all the way up to our high here at 875, and essentially gained back about 60% or so of this particular move down, which is great to see for the bulls. And there was definitely a lot of money to be made. I traded APHA quite a bit during this particular move, and as well, I'm sure a lot of traders did, because they were expecting this potential bounce to play out, and we were in that oversold territory as well, which was the oversold bounce was going to play out eventually, and it did in quite a way, with all the positive and kind of mixed emotions that was going on in the market. So since then, we've pulled back in what looks like our new higher low at 704, and today, again, another close near the highs of the day. We closed at 820 with a high of 840, which also is a good sign for the bulls. We have 2 green days of volume, which shows, again, more positive pressure. And one thing to keep in mind is that if the news from APHA does get released tomorrow, I do expect the stock to gap up tomorrow, depending on when they release it, whether it be after market hours, which is probably when I think they're going to release the news. Is going to be after market. So definitely it'll be priced in. There will be a lot of hype, and depending on how the news comes out, it could be a buy on the rumor, sell on the news situation. So we'll kind of see how that plays out, and see what to expect. But I personally expect a gap up, and if it is great news, depending on how volume goes, we'll see what we can see from there. But as far as support and resistance are concerned, we have the next resistance point at the high here of 875 as the next clear sign, and then we can also say our low here at 660, and then we have another low at 704. If we look at the shorter time frames, you can probably get a better picture. So another level to look out for is 660, which we saw as your higher low on the hourly. So we've had our high, low, and now we're looking to form either a higher high in comparison to 875, and with a potential another leg up to our next resistance point of 1022, and we do have a gap to be filled here, so that's something to watch as well. And that's what I expect for APHA going forward as far as support and resistance is concerned, depending on also how the news plays out for tomorrow and going forward for the rest of the week. So looking at CRON, Obviously, we had the great news with CRON and the huge momentum. The stock was already bullish. There was already a lot of great action that was going on with Chronos leading up to this. And since then, after we've set our high here at 1856, which is below our all-time high of 1981, we've started to pull back. And we do have a huge gap to be filled that starts at 1567. So we do still have, let's say this is the low of 1641. So we still got about $1 to go down, about 5-10% to potentially fill in the rest of this gap. And as far as what we can expect for this potential stock is that we have declining bear volume here, but we are in the overbought territory. So that's something to note as well. And even though we've, made new highs, which is good to see, the stock is definitely due for a pullback. Just with the move that we've had, just to even compare it to our last big move, we had almost a week of bull rally. And then we pulled back and went choppy first sideways, and now we've almost had another week or so of bull rally. So I expect the same thing to play out in a potential downside move and pullback to test this 1567 support of the high on the 3rd. And then as far as more just short-term levels, we can look at the hourly and see what we can expect. And really on the hourly, we can see here that after we hit our high, we pulled back, made a new low, and now we made another lower high here at 1748, with really another higher low and getting into this hourly tightening equilibrium. So a breakout is definitely imminent for Chronos, whether it be to the upside or downside. If we break 1748 with bull momentum, that'll be the next resistance point to watch out for. And then as far as support is concerned, I'm looking at 1686 for support, and we do have an hourly inside bar to be watching as well. So even just another clear support level would be 1702, which is a break of this inside bar, or 1740 to the upside. Now, looking at ACB, let's get back to the daily here. Let's take out some of these trend lines. So, the ACB, we found our new low at 1621 on December 5th, which is lower than our dump low at October 30th, creating a new lower low, which isn't too great for ACB right now. It's, from what we saw in some of the other symbols, ACB now is looking to me the most bearish. Even though APHA has had such a big pullback move, it was the ugliest chart in the past. But like I said, should APHA get everything sorted out, it could start looking like a great chart very quickly, very soon. With more confidence from the bulls. But as far as ACB is concerned, ACB has just been continuing to trend lower. Just a series of lower highs and lower lows with no real clear sign of any change of the daily reversal. But we are getting some positive movement now with this bounce, and obviously, like the other names, they all kind of correlate. The big three, big four, however you want to look at it, they all correlate in a way. And we had that correlation with the bounce that's similarly happened to the other names as well, with probably APHA driving a lot of that bullish momentum as well. And then as far as this is concerned, we're holding resistance here at 794. We closed exactly at 793, which is a previous resistance line that I had drawn out here. So this is really another clear resistance for ACB that they'll want to break to get into a new trading zone. And then really, anything below what we have here at 893 is just another lower high on this move, and really not a great sign for the bulls, and then we'll just continue to either move sideways or pull back a bit more. So really, if bulls do want to change this daily trend, we'll need that break of 789 followed by 846, and then another break of 893 to get really a vote of confidence that ACB is looking to reverse this pattern and get in a better daily trend to the upside. If we don't see that and we see further pullback, what we could potentially see play out as well is a higher low being set in comparison to 621, with another retest of 794 to see if we can break it in another move. The good thing is that we do have a little bit of bull volume here, which is good to see. We did have the RSI oversold bounce playing out, which is also good to see. So as long as we can break these next resistance point, that should put us in a good spot for the coming weeks heading into the new year. And then as far as just short-term levels to look out for this week, again, it'll really be a break of 846 as the next clear level to be watching out for, and then obviously $8 psychologically as another level just to watch out for first thing tomorrow morning. The good thing with ACB is that it also, like the other names, did close closer to the highs of the day. So again, like the other names, I do expect this to gap up as well, correlating with those names. And if we can get those resistance breaks that I mentioned previously, then we should see some good momentum for the ACB bulls. So that's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed the analysis. If you did, please hit us up with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Have a great night, and happy trading.